What's up, YouTube? Timmers here. Here is my throwback segment where I talk about the films that turns 10, 20, 30, and 40 this week. Alright, the films celebrating their 10th anniversary, we got some big ones here. We got the awesome sequel that is Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. I mean, it's not as good as the first Paul Blart, but I actually did have a fun time with the sequel. This time around you got Kevin James, who reprises his role as Paul Blart. Who of course is taking a well-deserved vacation, and of course, he's wanting all expenses paid trip to security convention in Vegas, and decides to take his teen daughter Maya, played by Randy Rodriguez, with him. And of course, Paul just can't relax and take it easy when he uncovers a criminal threat to the hotel here. It's actually, again, it's not as good as the first film, but I still had a little bit of a fun time with it. Kevin James, once again, was pretty fun. The guy from Wizards of Waverly Place, David Henry, he was also in this. Again, it's not as good as the first Paul Blart, and I'll be down for the third one. But it's actually, a lot of fun to check out. Alright, also turning 10 is Unfriended. Now, there was a sequel, which we don't talk about that. The sequel was terrible. But Unfriended was actually a really nice little, was a pleasant surprise at the time. Because when this first came out, I was like, oh, okay, just another found footage. We'll see what this is. It was a lot of fun. If you guys don't know much about the story, the whole movie pretty much takes place on a webcam, obviously. It's obviously like a screen-type film. And, it stars a former Teen Wolf actress, Shelley Henning. It's where, six high school students in a Skype conversation, which is haunted by a student who was bullied, bullied by them, and ended up taking her own life. And the film takes almost entirely through screen cast of a MacBook, and lots of the students over the webcams get killed off one by one. It is a really cool little horror film worth giving a go. Some of the kills in it was really cool. I like some of the cast of characters. I had a fun time with it, and it's a shame the sequel wasn't all that good. So, yeah, but if you guys never really seen Unfriended, the first one is, I'd say give it a go. You might enjoy it. It's a really decent one. Alright. Also turning 10 is Child 44, which was terrible. This was also directed by the guy who will go on to direct Morbius. So, there's that. Of course, this movie here stars Tom Hardy as Leo Dramajov, who's this secret police agent who loses everything when he refuses to denounce his wife Rosia as a traitor, and it's not so good. You got Gary Oldman, Noomi Rapace, Jason Clarke. It's completely boring. It's completely terrible, and yeah, shame too, because the last time Hardy and Rapace has worked together was The Drop, not to be confused with the recent horror film that just got released, but The Drop was a better collaboration with them. So, alright, also turning 10 is True Story, which starred James Franco and Jonah Hill. A very different, obviously when you think of Jonah Hill and James Franco doing a film together, you'll always expect them to possibly do a comedy together. This was a little more the serious tone. Here you got Franco, who plays Christian Longo, who's a man on the Federal Bureau of Investigation Most Wanted list, accused of killing his wife and their Audrey Hills there, and he hid in Mexico using his identity of Michael Franco, played by Jonah Hill. And obviously you of course have Franco, who is being incarcerated, and Jonah Hill's playing the interviewer here. It is a really decent little thriller worth giving a go. It is from director Rupert Gold, who will go on to direct, the Judy Garland biopic, Judy, which was pretty good. True Story is a really decent little thriller. Crazy to believe this is based on a true story, and really showcase how good Jonah Hill is, especially in the dramatic sense, and he was pretty good in this one. So, if you guys haven't seen True Story, definitely give that one a go. Alright. Also turning 10 is the Disney nature doc, Monkey Kingdom, which was a pretty decent one. Of course, this was narrated by Tina Fey, and it's about a family of monkeys living in ancient ruins found in the jungle here, and it's actually like it's such a shame Disney don't really put these nature documentaries in theaters no more. I think the last time they put one in theaters was like probably Penguins back in 2019. But like, of course, some other Disney natures was like, of course they did the Oceans one. They also did like a few other here and there. Monkey Kingdom was a really decent, charming one. Really love seeing like the monkeys and their habitats and stuff like that. It's a really decent one, and who doesn't love a good nature doc, right? All right, now films turning celebrating their 20th anniversary. We got the remake of the Amityville Horror. Of course, starring Ryan Reynolds, and you also had like a very young Chloe Moretz. I think this was like her first like one of her first acting gigs, if I'm not mistaken. So that's pretty cool to say the least there. Now, of course, this is based pretty much loosely based on the novel, which was, of course, adapted in 1979. This is probably the last good Amityville horror we've ever actually had, really, because they've been like doing some weird Amityville type stuff like nowadays. But of course, this had like Ryan Reynolds, and pretty much documents the experiences of the Les family after they move into the house at 112 Ocean Avenue, Long Island. And in like 1974, real life mass murderer Donna DeFeo, took out like six members of his family in Amityville, New York. And of course, you got Ron Reynolds. It's just a shame he doesn't really like do these type of films anymore. He was actually pretty solid in this one. It's actually not a bad remake. I mean, it's not great or anything, but it's far better than the Amityvilles we've had in recent years. Uh, of course, you had famed Australian actress Melissa George. The late great Philip Baker Hall was in this. It gets pretty creepy throughout. Obviously, no Amityville horror beats the original 1979 version, but this one definitely had its moments. All right, also turning 20 is The Interpreter, which starred Nicole Kidman as like Sylvia Broom, who's the U.S. nations when she overhears what she believes she may take out on the president of Matobo. Of course, you have like Sean Penn, Catherine Keener. It's not a bad little film, thriller. Directed by Sidney Pollack, who I think this was actually like his last movie before his passing. Of course, if you don't know Sidney Pollack, he's directed movies like 3 Days of Condor, Tootsie, Out of Africa. Really iconic filmmaker in his own right. And he did a pretty good job with this one. Like, not his best work, obviously, but really decent to say the least. Nicole Kidman, Sean Penn was good. Really good little thriller there. Alright, there's also, this one probably hurts a little more because two of the stars in this one, Sally, no longer with us. Also turning 10 is House of D. Now, this movie does star the late Anton Yelchin, who tragically did pass away back in 2016. And you also have the late great Robert Williams, who sadly also passed away. Oh, and top off Willie Garson, who you might know from Sex and the City fame. He's also in this, and he sadly passed too. So this is a really really sad to watch nowadays. But this movie does star the late talented actor Anton Yelchin as a 13-year-old growing up in New York City, and he hangs out with Papas, played by Robert Williams, who is his mentally disabled man. You also have like the always great Taylor Leone, David Duchovny. Really, nice, charming film worth giving a go. Like the chemistry between Robert Williams and Anton Yelchin. It is tragic to know that they're sadly no longer with us anymore, but they really do. They play off each other very well here. I mean, if you guys never really seen House of D, I say give it a go. Really go love them. There's also also turning 10. Not 10. Also turning 20. State Property 2, which a sequel to the 2002 film with Cameron, Jay-Z, Mariah Carey, many others. The sequel is pretty forgettable. Of course, this was directed by Damon Dash. Where like the gang war in Philadelphia is mostly centered around rivals. And so you got Dame, who's like the ruthless leader, who of course is the ruthless leader of the Umbrella organization, who's like money and firepower have like put him at the top of the crime world and stuff. It's just not a good sequel. Like the first film was pretty good, But the sequel is pretty forgettable. You also do got the likes of, you got like Cameron, Beanie Siegel, Kanye West is even in this. Um, yeah, obviously the first, and you also have the film also marks the final appearances of Old Dirty Bastard, who also sadly passed away. But this movie is not a good one at all. Pretty forgettable there. All right, well now turning dirty this week, Jury Duty. The classic Pauly Shore comedy, starring Tia Carrera, the late great Ava Goda, Shelley Winters. Who did not remember Jury Duty? Not to be confused with the TV show that James Marsden starred in. I'm talking about the classic comedy from 1995 with Pauly Shore. Pauly Shore was like everywhere in the 90s. Whether you talk about Biodome, what else? Trying to remember what else he did. Biodome. Um, you know, obviously Jury Duty. Like Pauly Shore was, which by the way, his Richard Simmons one I still want to see, but Pauly Shore has always been the man. And of course, if you guys don't know much about the story here, Tommy Collins, played by Pauly Shore, pretty much ends up homeless when his mother throws him out of the trailer, and desperate for like a place to stay. He figures like that landing a spot on Jury should get him a roof over his head here. And of course, you got like Tia Carrera, who he tries to make moves on. And obviously, who does not love Tia Carrera, right? Tia Carrera was like everywhere in the nights too. Like whether you talk about Wayne's World, True Lies. Who did not love Tia Carrera, right? My Teacher's Wife. Just watch My Teacher's Wife. You'll thank me later. But yeah, Jury Duty is a really decent, fun comic. It's not like a great one. Oh yeah, I think Punisher was in the army now too, if I'm not mistaken, right? He's done so many stuff in the '90s, but my favorite will always be Biodome, which turns 30 next year, by the way. But Jury Duty is still a really fun one. So yeah, Shelby doesn't really do too much nowadays, but who still doesn't love Polly, right? Alright, also turning dirty is The Pebble and the Penguin, which was directed by Don Bluth, who I've always loved Don Bluth. He is the guy who gave us An American Tail, Land Before Time. But there were some films in the 90s I was not too pleasant of that he did. And Pebble and the Penguin is probably one of his weakest films. It is, of course, based on a true story of mating rituals of the Adelie penguins in Antarctica. And you do have the voices of like Martin Short, Jim Belushi, Tim Curry. I did not really care for this one that much. Like, I remember watching this as a kid and probably never even went back and watched it again. It just does not live up to the hype as, let's say, Land Before Time did, or An American Tail, and all. And I've always loved Don Bluth, but this was probably my least favorite film of his. Alright, also turning dirty is Stuart Saves His Family, directed by the late great Ghostbusters actor Harold Ramis, starring Al Franklin as obviously you might know him as an SNL writer, politician, and all. Here, of course, it follows like the adventures of a would-be self-help guru named Stuart Smalley, who a creation of comedian of Al Franklin, as he attempts to save both his deeply troubled family and his low-rated public access television show. It's not a great film, but it is actually more of a guilty pleasure of mine. You also had Vincent D'Onofrio, Kurt Fuller, Shirley Knight, Laura San Giacomo, some cool cast members. Al Franklin, of course, he was, by the way, just in The Residence on Netflix. Pretty good there. But this is actually not a bad little comedy. It's not great, but it is definitely like one of those, dumb, nice comedies that you'll probably just watch once in a while, Alright, now, also turning 40 this week is The Company of Wolves, directed by Neil Jordan, who of course gave us The Crying Game and many others, starring the late great Angela Lansbury. And it's where like wolves and werewolves lurk throughout the dreams of young Rosaline, played by Sarah Peterson, who imagines that she must like journey through the dark forest with to live with her grandmother, played by Angela Lansbury. And of course, she discovers that she has a animal-like attraction to him, leading to a macabre turn of events here. And the Company of Wolves is a 80s horror classic. Like there was some really cool werewolves movies in the 80s. Whether you talk about American Werewolf in Paris, obviously Teen Wolf, uh, Silver Bullet's another good one. I mean, who did not love good 80s werewolf movies, right? Obviously, the big one of them all is obviously The Wolfman from 1941. But The Company of Wolves is a really cool, creepy one. Um, I mean, it definitely had a little bit of like a Red Riding Hood vibe to it. I mean, if you guys haven't seen it, I say give it a go. It is a really decent one. All right, also turning 40 is Moving Violations, starring John Murray, Jennifer Tilly. I think this was actually Jennifer Tilly's first film, if I'm not mistaken. You also had like the late great Fred Willard, the film debut of Don Cheadle, who will go on to star in the MCU, obviously. It is, of course, where goofy students of Remino Driver's education class find themselves butting heads with their abusive, police instructors. Movie Violations is a pretty fun little comedy. Great, it's not like a classic as, let's say, John Hughes movies or anything like that, but it definitely has some fun moments to it, some fun laughs. I mean, the 80s always had some really cool, 80s teen comedies, and this was definitely one worth giving a go. But that's pretty much it there. Let me let you guys, which of these films stand out to you the most? To me, the 10-year one is going to go to Unfriended. The 20-year one is actually going to go to, Amityville Horror was cool, but I'm going to go with House of D. 30-year one, I'm going to go with Jerry Duty. And the 40-year one, The Company of Wolves. Drop comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. This is Timmy Sire.